Hey everybody, I'm back for another review of Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 8, Episode 17, Fashion Showdown. Okay, if you're watching this, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as I try to grow my channel. So please do that. Um, so we get this episode, this episode was better than the previous ones, but okay. So Karen is fine, and it looks like she's going to live a long life. Great. All right, Naneka and her husband go to the doctor. I really think some of this is overkill. I really do. I think Naneka has put way too much pressure on herself to get pregnant. And I think her family has given her too much pressure to get pregnant. And once again, this seems to be to keep her husband. And her husband have a marriage. And maybe they should spend more time getting to know each other because Naneka is still pretty young. Um, and so they basically inseminate her. It took Ike a while to come. Honestly, his dick still look hard. His private still look hard to me. um, when he left out, but never mind. So Giselle and Ashley are premiering the GNA fashion line. I knew this was gonna be a shit show, clusterfuck, before it even happened, but nevertheless. So Giselle and Ashley are going to premiere this fashion line. Ashley claims it has taken months and months of work. And I was thinking to myself, even months is not a long time for the level of detail that comes with fashion. Um, and Bravo shows basically started 6 weeks ago. I think Ashley is lying as usual, and Giselle lies too as usual. So two peas in the pod there. But somehow I think Ashley thinks when she says months and months, she thinks taking the time to sit down and meet with Giselle all the times their schedules could not align includes this planning prep period because y'all were too lazy to meet face to face when it rained and decided not to do a Zoom meeting. But okay, girl. So Mia and Gordon go to therapy. Mia talks about how she seeks Mia, ma'am, I'm trying, but it's sought counsel, not seek counsel. Okay, for a divorce. So Mia, anyway, she said that once she did secure an attorney, Gordon emptied her bank account and said, "You can't leave me." And she's in a confessional like, um, that's abusive. Mia, honey, if you don't know anything else, and we all know there's a good chance you don't, you were right about that, baby girl. And I'm starting to get a little concerned. And I'm not being funny. And we all know, all right, so she said, she told us this before, she had a combative upbringing. And she said Gordon began to be combative with her and with the kids. And she said she grew up like that and she's not willing to live like that again. And it is not unusual, particularly for people who have not gone through therapy as I continue to go through it. It is not um, uncommon to be attracted or go back into situations with men or women, depending on, preference, who remind you of familiar dysfunction. Just because it feels familiar. Sometimes being loved really feels uncomfortable and abnormal if you have not received that your whole life. Um, and when she said combative, I was wondering, because it's Mia, I was wondering if she meant abusive. Because that's the way she really described her childhood. Because we know Mia isn't the most articulate, and I'm not trying to like degrade her or anything, but she's not articulate, and we know she lies. But the use of the word combative made me think she may be covering up um, other things going on in the home. I just think that. So Candace talks to Dr. Ken. He makes a house call, and she says she's been seeing him on and off over time. That's the problem. That's the problem, Candace. That's why you still are breaking down and going off at times because your therapy hasn't been consistent. And I am not suggesting that this artificial environment of so-called friends or a group of this cast is an indicator of, the levels of your life. But I do think one thing about therapy I do know, going once a week, it only works if you want it and if you're consistent. You can't treat your psychotherapist as a consultant when you have problems. You can't. You just can't. Um, and that's how you really get better. So she's struggling with whether or not she wants to have a child. And I think, and he asked her, why not? And she said she's scared, this, that, and the other. People are afraid to make a mistake, something coming out wrong with your child or, disabilities. There's so many things that go through a person's head. And we all know that women bear the brunt of whatever it is. And I think Candace having parents that were divorced and didn't communicate well, all of those things I think play a role. And I think me as an individual about having children and have I waited too long and will I ever find somebody that I want to procreate with? Because I don't think I do anybody any service to have a baby with a man I don't find up to snuff, married or not. Like, if he's not educated, if he doesn't have certain kinds of priorities around religion, finances, education, commitment, that to me is not a good choice. And I'm not going to try to make somebody into who I want them to be. I just can't procreate with just anybody. That's not who I am. So, the idea of motherhood can be overwhelming to me. How to raise them, what kinds of schools to send them to. And me, as somebody who works at an independent school, which is a private school, I would never send my black children to any private school I've worked at. The level of trauma that comes about as being one of a few black kids, and even then, you have like Haitian immigrant children, first generation. We all know, well, and if you don't, Nigerian immigrants who do not readily identify with African Americans and oftentimes make sure that African American students, and I've seen this especially among adults, they let them know they're not welcomed amongst them, and that can be deeply traumatic for kids early on. I would not suggest it. That's just me. And people say, well, I want my kid to get a good education. A good education to me is not one that teaches your kids that they're invisible. In curriculum, in social circles, that's not good. Just telling you what I know. I mean, I got to make a living, but I'm just making a point. All right? But it is good to know that I'm not the only one thinking these things through sometimes. And it's good to know that being married doesn't always make it easier either, as we see with Nneka and Candy. So thank you for sharing, Candy. All right. The cast meets to talk to Mia about doing a photo shoot for some local D&B magazine. Mia said she talked to Nneka and said that she's not included in the spread because they don't know her well enough. They know these women based on the show. All right. Well, Nneka, you can take, solace in the fact that Sharif wasn't invited either. Anyway, so they have them playing different characters. Giselle is Beyonce because she likes being with blonde weed. Okay. Anyway, Candace is Diana Ross. Honestly, I think Candace could have killed Dorothy Dandridge. I do. I actually think Candace and Ashley should have been switched. Karen is Lena Horne, which I think is actually a really good one. I actually think she can pull that off. Dorothy Dandridge is Ashley. Mia as Pam Grier. That's another fitting one. And if you've ever seen some of them black exploitation movies, which are horrible, you'll understand why. Wendy is Sheryl Lee Ralph. Aesthetically, I guess she can pull it off, but not the best. I don't know that I would have gone for that. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like iconic looks, maybe from Dreamgirls, but I don't know. Robin is Mariah Carey, epic fail. Moving on. Oh no, we can't move on without running into Robin again. So Juan and Robin go to look at a property for a spa or something called Glow 30. This is the problem. They're not good at business, either one of them. She perpetually fails despite saying she has a business degree. It's not looking good, University of Maryland, because both her and Ashley have degrees in business. Not looking good. I would judge Hampton if I didn't know other people that had graduated from Hampton and had used that degree properly. Giselle gives me graduated by the skin of her teeth. Anyway, she says she wants to open Glow 30 for stability since Juan lost his job. That seems like a big, weird need. I mean, how much was Juan really making at Copper State? I understand the purpose for stability, but the bottom line is, and I know it's hard depending on the employer because you don't know when you'll get laid off. But business takes a great deal of investment, and that's why I hate all this. You need to become a black entrepreneur. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I'm just sitting up here like, y'all act like that's easy. Overhead is not easy. The time it takes to do these things are not easy. And you actually have to have a niche. You have to have a creative idea and a product to sell and money to invest. That is not, everybody can't do that in a capitalist society, and it's designed so everybody can't do it. And then, quite frankly, some people are just not good at it. I don't like to guess what my check is going to be. Make fun of me for being a teacher all you want. Okay? So, Robin calls Giselle to check on her, whose father's in a hospital with brain cancer. My sincerest condolences because he does pass. Regardless of the show, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. Her father did the typical thing that so many men do, not black men, so many men do, and that's a lot of their families about really what's going on. And I understand her frustration that he's been lying to her for weeks. But I also think many men do that to give them a little cushion room here because they are still trying to play the role of protector even once their child is grown. And so they feel like by not telling them, they won't worry, whatever happens, happens. All it does is increase the anxiety. But I do think that's where they're coming from. All right. And I think, yeah. And I'm not into this. Never mind, I'm not going to start there. I'm not into this black men are just so stupid when it comes to health and misinformed. No, it's a history of malpractice and therefore distrust. So miss me with that kind of foolishness. Wendy has managed to assemble an ensemble cast of women commentating for her new show. Okay. They were talking about affirmative action. Okay. And the chick from the Jasmine brand just kind of seemed out of her league. People like April Ryan and stuff. But okay. I think that's good for a premiere show. If you can't keep those as regular guest commentators, it's probably going to be a little dry. So anyway, the fashion show. Karen checked on Giselle, and I think Karen might have the most knowledge once again about how to deal with this because Karen lost both her parents in one season when those bitches were leaving pizza on her fucking front porch, claiming that she was lying about her tax issues. And we didn't know till that fucking reunion that those bitches knew her parents were fucking dying from Alzheimer's. Are you kidding me? Whew, Karen gotta believe in heaven. Anyway, and when it rains, it pours. You know, your first child leaving, which sounds sometimes trivial, but I mean, it's hard. I think for women the first time it happens. I mean, think anytime, but it's especially that first one. And then losing your father. That's a lot. Just PSA, please stop inviting Cherise. Please stop forcing her on us as friend of the show or anything else. I understand, Giselle, your father taught you business is business, but I do think your family should come first. And that's what I find really wrong with the whole business community and even show, because the show must go on. Sometimes it shouldn't. Sometimes there need to be places where you draw a line. And the last days with your father is probably one of those times. So it's not like the fashions are worth watching. whatever kind of home ec first beginner's designer thing they had at the beginning of the episode, it's a no for me. It's a no, it's a never. And much less, it wasn't worth watching, but much less worth wearing, girl, bye. Candace, your outfit was everything that you came to the fashion show with. That was cute. The fashion show was a hot ass mess, but what else would we expect? Karen said that these gym these are gym clothes. And when somebody says gym clothes as opposed to workout clothes, you know that's a reach. That man just bring that t-shirt from home, some shorts, some clean socks. Okay, hell, it could be your pajamas and just don't nobody know. Anyway, so the fashion show looks like when the fifth graders at school are playing around with the costumes from the spring play, the last week of school, and the theater teacher just lets them play around and stuff because she's over lesson planning and she just can't do it no more and just lets them be. But they actually put on the show with this bullshit. So people were there because these chicks are on Potomac, not because there would be an audience to view this shit without it. Okay? Okay. So Mia said Giselle has been through a lot. She tries to gather the women. And Wendy said, well, when my mother was in the hospital, she was dragging both me and my mom about that stuff with the necklace. Whether I'm on Wendy's side with the necklace situation, and I'm not, um, it is what it is. I can't tell nobody how to feel about that. Candace said, I wish her well, but I can wish somebody well from a distance and not be bothered. I agree. And their relationship does not lend itself to it because Giselle hasn't even apologized fully. And it's clear by her behavior for how she talked about Candace's husband. Candace doesn't owe that to her. Now, can some people find it in their heart to do that? Sure. But Candace doesn't have to. And we can't tell her to and expect her to do it. So Deborah, Sesame Street, decides to see Candace for calling her a Sesame Street character. What you didn't say this to my face, what you didn't do, all this. Neither one of these chicks, I can tell, can fight. Okay? Deborah, we don't want you on the show. You do look like a fucking Sesame Street character. Stop trying to have your moment. They didn't bring you on this show this season for a reason, and you didn't register with the viewers, and you somehow thinking being messy and ugly is how you're going to get on this show. The problem is we have enough messy, ugly chicks. And that's all I got to say. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to y'all soon.